Hello and welcome to this very special YouTube live. We're coming to you from the NDTV newsroom. And a topic that we're discussing today is something that concerns us all. In fact, the air quality crisis is something that's now become an annual affair. Every year, right before Diwali, we see toxic haze, in a sense, covering our skies. But before we actually get into unpacking the problem of air pollution or the air quality crisis, what are its ramifications? What are its health effects? How does it, why does it need emergency measures? Before we get into all of that, we must understand that it's not a problem that we can confine to the national capital, because that is something that we tend to do a lot of times, that it's actually Delhi that is the only city that is that suffers the impact of air pollution. It's not so. It's a pan India problem, and certainly a North India problem, because just yesterday, while I was going through the CPCB app, in fact, I'd like to show you that app. I have that on my phone. It's the best app to actually go on to check the air quality across cities. You have city-wise data, and this is government data, so this is authentic. It was what was very interesting but also shocking was that three Uttarakhand cities were actually the worst affected when it comes to AQI. So that was quite shocking to me, because generally it's cities from UP, Bihar, Delhi, of course, also parts of Punjab and Haryana that really are the worst hit and the most vulnerable when it comes to air pollution. But you have cities from hill states also that are equally vulnerable. Starting with Delhi, because of course, as I said, Delhi is the worst impacted, and there are multiple reasons for it. One, of course, is the fact that you have stubble burning, farm fires in neighboring states of Punjab and Haryana, and also adverse weather conditions this time of the year, which in a sense exacerbate the problem and exacerbate the air quality index of the national capital. In fact, as we speak, the air quality is in the poor category overall, and in some parts of the national capital it's also in the very poor category. Now this time, this year round, we saw that the air quality began spiking to emergency levels much before the norm, which is mostly closer to Diwali, that we see that the air quality actually plunges to these levels. But this time it was much before that. And what experts point out, including CAQM, which is the air quality panel, which of course says that we are taking measures, but they also point out that the worst is yet to come, because of course during Diwali you'll see the problem of the pollution caused by firecrackers, all of that adding to the problem as well. So before we actually look at what the government has been doing and has it been enough, let's look at what we are breathing. Because as I said right at the beginning, or right at the onset of the newsroom live as well, is that every breath you take is killing you, and that is because of the composition of the air that you're breathing. Now there are multiple pollutants that are part of this toxic air. You of course have the PM 2.5 pollutant, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen reference to or mention of the PM 2.5 pollutant in through the course of our reports. In fact, I myself have been reporting on this in the past 2.5 years. And the PM 2.5 pollutant is actually a micropollutant, which is extremely toxic and extremely lethal. It can penetrate your lungs, and it can cause chronic respiratory illnesses and even cancer. In fact, now there are innumerable studies to actually show you that the link between air pollution and cancer is established, is a well established and well known uh, link. In fact, that is something that experts have said again and again. In fact, recent studies have also shown that air pollution can also cause antibiotic resistance. So that is the extent to which it can damage your health. So one is a PM 2.5 pollutant, which is a micropollutant. It's not visible, of course. It penetrates your lungs and causes these chronic illnesses. The PM10 pollutant is also, if not equally, but extremely significantly detrimental to your health. And if you look at our air, the air that we are breathing currently here in the national capital as well. In fact, I myself have cough and cold, and that is because what we are breathing is a cocktail of poisons. In fact, that is something that we've covered in our reports as well, that you're breathing potassium, sulfate, carbon. These are the components of the air that you're breathing, which is why now doctors say that it's advisable not to venture out at all. In fact, doctors say stay indoors all the time, particularly for elders, and children, because the children and the elderly are the most vulnerable when it comes to the health effects of air pollution. So doctors say if you must step out, then you should wear an N95 mask, because the other masks, including the surgical mask and the cloth masks, they really do not help. If you have to venture out, then you must wear an N95 mask. So this is, in a sense, an idea of what we're breathing. Now, what really causes the air quality to spike to emergency levels? What is behind this poison that you're actually breathing? Now, if we talk about Delhi and indeed other cities, including those in UP and Bihar, you must understand there are various factors, but some of them are common. Vehicular pollution, for example, is one of the most important and significant contributors to air pollution. In fact, here in the national capital also, we've seen multiple efforts being made, including the odd even campaign, then you have red light off, gadi on campaign, but these are all really emergency measures, not long term measures. If you look at vehicular pollution, we still see petrol and diesel cars growing every year, multiple, in great multiples, and that is something that's extremely concerning. In fact, if you look at the long term, sort of a long term approach as well, many say that flyovers and we're building flyovers at an increasingly alarming rate. They also really do not cause decongestion of traffic, or they do not really contribute in curbing vehicular pollution. What we have to stress on is switching to public transport. In fact, that is something that experts have pointed out again and again, that public transport has to be encouraged, and this has to be a round the year thing. The governments cannot just come in and say right at the onset of the peak pollution season that switch to public transport, or that we are increasing the frequency of metros, or we're increasing the frequency of DTC buses. That really does not help. It has to be a round the year approach, a 24/7, 12-month long approach, wherein you demand behavioral shift from people, and this also has to come from the top, from governments, where public transport has to become the norm. Otherwise, vehicular pollution continues to contribute almost more than 20%, in fact, as far as Delhi, this toxic air is concerned. Now, farm fires. Farm fires is an extremely contentious issue, a political one as well. It's in neighboring Punjab and Haryana that we see farm fires, and why do farmers actually burn the stubble? Now, stubble is nothing but standing paddy, that it happens after the harvest season, and they have to clear their farms um, in order to prepare it for the next for the next season, which is why they burn their stubble. Now, farmers say, and I have reported from Punjab and Haryana, and farmers say that they're helpless, because all the alternatives that have been promised to them, or all the alternatives that have been given to them, including the use of balers and seeders to crush stubble, or switching to alternative crops, they're not accessible to farmers, which is why they say that they're helpless and they have to resort to stubble burning. So farmers essentially say uh, we are not culprits, or we are not perpetrators of air pollution, but we ourselves are victims, because they say that when we burn stubble, our kids are at risk, and it's something, of course, that affects us also, because the air pollution affects them, their health as well. So farmers say they're helpless. Now, last year we saw Chief Minister Bhagwant Mann say that crop diversification is something that they will be looking at very seriously. But farmers say that those crops are extremely expensive. Switching from, say, paddy to maize and cotton and other such alternative crops is something that's an expensive affair for them, which is why they cannot switch to any other crop. So that is a big issue as well, which is why farmers continue to burn stubble. Now, this year, farm fires have been the lowest in years, in fact almost a decade. But the fact is that experts say that the worst is yet to come, because the harvest season this year was delayed because of the floods. We saw huge floods, devastating floods in Punjab and Haryana this year, particularly in Punjab, which is what caused a veritable delay in the harvest season. So we will see the number of farm fires rise in the subsequent weeks, which is what NASA also has said, and many other expert organizations have also said. Now, stubble burning. what how it affects Delhi. So basically, the toxins that emanate from stubble burning, they find their way into Delhi because of the wind direction. And when you have an unfavorable wind direction, it causes the air quality in the national capital to worsen. So stubble burning is, of course, also an important aspect. Now, industrial pollution, construction and demolition activities contribute a great deal when it comes to the air pollution here. In fact, recently we saw a stage 2 of the graded response action plan, which is essentially an emergency pollution action plan, kick in. And in that, construction demolition activities were banned as well. But of course, the big question is it too little too late? Because right at the onset of pollution season, we have certain emergency measures, but they really do not help. So industrial pollution is also an important aspect here. So these are some of the important contributors or causes of air pollution here in the national capital and various other parts of India as well. In fact, in UP and Bihar also, you will see that industrial pollution and vehicular pollution are most important contributors as far as air pollution is concerned. Now, what have governments done? Now, if you talk about the Aam Aadmi Party government here in the national capital, earlier their excuse, for the lack of a better word, was that this is something that is happening in Punjab and Haryana, and they cannot do much about it because it's the Punjab and Haryana governments that need to look at why stubble burning is not curbed and why is it not stopped, and it is because of that that Delhi has to bear the brunt of air pollution. But after the formation of the Bhagwant Mann government in Punjab, the ball has really been in the Aam Aadmi Party's court. It has been 2 years, nearly 2 years of the formation of the Aam Aadmi Party government in Punjab, and even now, stubble burning has come down, but the corrective measures have not really borne fruit. As far as the ground situation is concerned, because as I said, stubble burning is expected to get worse. And in Delhi, again, we'll see absolutely unfortunate measures of schools and colleges being closed, emergency measures coming in, work from home mandates being given out. So you will see all of this, and then again we are back to square one, where we are going from one emergency to another emergency, and it's really not about long term and sustainable measures. So we must ask for these long term and sustainable measures, because if you keep relying on these emergency measures, the menace of air pollution, the public health emergency of air pollution that you have, that will never be curbed. And we are doing great injustice to our children, who, as I said, are the most vulnerable or the worst affected when it comes to air pollution, and we're doing great injustice to them. They deserve clean air. In fact, it's something that has got to do with our fundamental right to clean air, our right to healthy air and healthy environment. So that is something that we are being denied. So we are doing injustice and disservice to not just the elderly, but also our children, because their schools will be shut and they will not be able to venture out. In fact, kids have been given this mandate of not to go outdoors, not to play outdoor games. So all of this is extremely unfortunate. And while we discuss air pollution each year during this peak season, we must pay attention to it round the year. In fact, that is something that has been NDTV's commitment as well. In fact, in the past couple of years, in the past decade, we have been committed to the cause of air pollution. We have been committed to the cause of demanding corrective measures, demanding long term measures when it comes to air pollution. So, we as a society must come together. There are various non government organizations, there are various right thinking citizens, conscientious citizens who have come together to talk about this cause. But we as society have to come together, and it demands behavioral shifts, as I said, and fixing accountability, because as we do this live, our big question is, where does the buck stop? Who is responsible for this? Is it the government? Is it civil society? So fixing accountability is extremely important when it comes to air pollution, because as we speak, air quality is in the poor category. The PM 2.5 level, the PM 2.5 that I just described, the levels of the PM 2.5 are almost 80 to 100 times the safe limit set by the World Health Organization. So you can imagine the extent to which it can damage your health. So the WHO safe limit is around 5 as far as the concentration of PM 2.5 is concerned. And as we speak here in the national capital and several other cities as well, that concentration of PM 2.5, the levels at which it is almost 80 to 100 times the safe limit set by the World Health Organization. So extremely concerning there. And what do doctors say? Doctors have already been reporting an increase in the number of patients who are showing symptoms such as wheezing and cold and cough and irritation in the throat and chest pain, and of course pulmonary diseases, and also cardiac issues, because as I said earlier as well, there is a link that has been established between air pollution and cardiac issues as well. So doctors say do not venture out. This is the time to stay indoors. If you must, wear an N95 mask. But of course, we're living, we are experiencing this public health emergency, and we at NDTV are committed to fixing accountability and raising this issue around the year and not just at the onset of the peak pollution season. So keep following our reports on NDTV as well as we bring to you various aspects of this public health emergency. Thank you and goodbye.